So welcome back, Pastor Eric and Daniel. See, we all made it back safe and sound. So how are y'all doing?
Everybody.
It's a wonderful day here in Charleston. I think it's like 80, so I don't want to cut my grass.
It was 87 when I was up outside at 6:45 this morning. It was 85.
Yep, that's why my yard is starting to look like a jungle, because I'm not doing it. Can't make it.
Yeah.
Last night at 9:30 p.m. it was 87.
Ugh.
I know.
Ugh.
Who doesn't love the low country in the summer?
Yes.
I know I don't.
So we have some questions. Are y'all ready?
Let's do it.
All right. Question number 1. See if we can stump y'all. Question number 1. Say God's always with us. But why can't we see God?
Ooh. Well, I guess I would argue you can, right?
Okay.
Aren't we all made in God's image? So maybe, just maybe, hear me out, there's a glimpse of God in everyone you meet in your daily life.
Mm-hmm. There you go.
That's good.
Yep.
So you're saying God, we see God in each other. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
All right.
Mm-hmm.
You know, when I hear these kind of questions, I think that maybe, I think about Dr. Winger, and what did he always say? Why do you ask that question? And I wonder if the question really is about, well, in the Old Testament and New Testament, but particularly the Old Testament, God would often show up how? As a burning bush, or as a cloud, or as wind, or fill in the blank, God shows him in nature in different ways, or you hear God's voice that's unmistakable. So I wonder if people wonder, why doesn't God show up now? Why can't we see God now like people apparently saw God in the Old Testament?
Tagging off of the Old Testament a little bit there, you hear or you read stories in the Old Testament about how, say like Moses went up on the top of Mount Sinai and was there, and there were clouds over the mountain, and Moses saw God, and then it was so much, it's so big and so much that like Moses' face like was bright after the fact. He had to like cover his face because it would have been just him seeing God was too much for the people back down on the, from the mountain to take. And so it kind of makes me think, we see like a burning bush, or we see or hear a voice. It would, seeing God all at once just be too much for us. So, but then God came as a human being, as Jesus, as someone we could actually be with. So I think we see, like Daniel said, glimpses of God, but to see God all at once, like that might be just too much for us to handle.
I think that I would go back to Daniel. I think Daniel has maybe the best answer here, in that maybe we see God in each other, I get back to creation. God is God the creator, and we see God in creation every day. I like again, back to the grass. I see the grass outside that needs to be mowed, and once I mow it, it'll need to be mowed again, and at some point the leaves will come off the trees, and it will be winter, but then spring will come too again at some point. And so God is always a creating God.
Yeah.
No, absolutely. But can we get back? When do you see winter here in Charleston? I'm really, really curious about that one.
I think once every 20 years.
You have to leave town to go see.
Yeah, actually, that tracks. That tracks.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I think it's once every 20 years. Yeah. It plunges. The temperatures plunge into the 40s. Yes.
All right. So question number 2. This is a communion question.
Ooh, I like communion.
In communion, yeah, me too. We say, this is the body of Christ given for you. This is the blood of Christ shed for you. And then we go and we have communion, and it definitely still tastes like wafer. It definitely still tastes like wine. So when we say this is the body and blood of Christ given for you, are we really eating like flesh and blood? That sounds a little gross. What's going on there?
Early on, the Christians early on, when they had to hide out in their houses or kitchens or caves or barns or wherever they were hiding out to practice their Christianity, and people would overhear them talking about using those words, eating body, or eating flesh and eating or drinking blood. They thought that Christianity was cannibalism. Yeah, and so there. So I think, Pastor, it depends upon what stripe of Christian you are. We're Roman Catholic, so boys and girls, a big word is transubstantiation. So the Roman Catholics believe that when you eat the wafer and drink the wine, then Jesus literally turns the wine turns into blood and the bread turns into flesh. So Lutherans believe, some would say consubstantiation, but my teacher said that's probably not the best word. He's like the word real presence, that whenever we have the bread and the wine, Jesus shows up. He said that when Jesus throws a party, he shows up. And we have Jesus in, under, around, within that bread and wine. And then other traditions believe it's just more like a memorial, remembering all the good things that Jesus did for us. And they were calling the upper room where it was more of a memorial meal together. There's no right or wrong. It's just what you believe. And we Lutheran Christians believe in the real presence. Related to that, Pastor, some people have been disappointed that we haven't been able to have bread and wine. Mm-hmm. And then the pandemic just was a safety reason. This is why we haven't done it. But that's not something that we made up. That's been going on for hundreds and hundreds of years, that the church said it's okay to have one element. Mm-hmm. Jesus still picked it up.
Mm-hmm. I will say, though, and maybe Daniel would agree, if all you have the wafer is the wafer, though, and nothing to wash it down with, it's a little rough, man.
Here, it takes like a weird texture. It's like almost soggy. Mm-hmm. It's different.
When Charleston humidity hits those wafers. Joe. But Jesus is still there.
A friend of mine, Edgar Goldstein, just sent a meme the other day, and it was a funny meme. I think it was a funny meme. I can't imagine these really exist. It's for the fall. It's pumpkin spice flavored communion wafers. So
I think I've seen that.
Yes. I think some come in zesty ranch as well. So anyway, But Jesus still shows up. Okay. Good question.
Speaking of fall, good segue there. We're getting ready to send kids back to school. Some of them are going virtually, some of them are going in person, but it's that time of year for back to school. So do you guys have any fond back to school memories? Some of us may have to reach farther back in our memories than others, but
hey there, watch out. I was always the kid. I was a really good student and was very conscientious and earnest and all that. Once I was at school, it was fine. I always dreaded the first day of school. I never liked change. Even now, change is hard. But it was always you're upset the summer schedule and you had to change something. So I always was very weary of the first day of school. But once I got there, it was, I smelled like in the early elementary. I remember smelling the crayons. I can still smell the box of fresh crayons and your new Trapper Keeper that you got to use, and just the whole year spread out ahead of you, and new friends, maybe new people in your class who you knew in other classes before, but you weren't in class together, and you could make new friends, and teachers, getting used to teachers, and it was just always, you had the whole year ahead of you. In some ways, the first day of school is as good as the first day of summer.
Yeah, I think honestly, one of my fondest was we always had dogs in the house growing up, and so when I was younger, we had Brandy, like 3rd, 4th grade, and when she was a pup, my dad, always with the transition from summer to school was like you had to start waking up early, which just isn't fun. We all know it's not fun. But he would come in with the pup and he'd say like, good morning, and then like throw the dog on my bed. He would then like proceed to like run up on me and like lick my face. And so that's how I would wake up. And that was really fun. And then it got to a point as she got bigger, she didn't need to be thrown. She just like jumped on me. which was still fun, but less fun than like a puppy. There's nothing quite like a 30-pound dog, like just like hauling up and jumping on you though.
You should try that with Charles.
No, buddy.
I think for me, there's always having to get used to the new routine and the idea of, okay, there's a new teacher to get to know. But when I was moving into third grade, one of the neat things was that our second grade teacher went up to third grade with us, and she kept the whole class together. And so I got to have the same classmates and the same teacher for second and third grade. And it was a really fun, great class. It's one of my favorite classes that I ever got to be a part of in elementary school. And so I think for me, especially going into third grade, there was definitely some excitement to head back to school because I knew who my teacher was. I knew that it was going to be a fun class. I knew that we were going to have a great time. And so knowing that before the start of school, I think just gave me something to really look forward to.
Well, our boys and girls are starting school. Any of your yams are starting school on, most of them are starting on Tuesday next week. Some have already started. Mm-hmm. And we do have them in our prayers, and teachers and everybody. We start this new year because we just don't know what's going to happen. I'm glad we're trying to go back, and I hope it works out. I hope it does. Mm-hmm. If it does, then it's a good sign for us at the church that we can come back to.
Fingers crossed.
Fingers crossed.
Yeah.
Right.
Of course.
Well, these were good questions.
Yeah. Well, thank you guys. As always, if people have questions, they can always send them to Daniel. And I don't think there's ever been a question that we haven't at least tried to take a stab at. I think there's been times we've been stumped, but we at least try to take a stab at it. So send those questions in and we will see what we could do. So.
Be well, everybody. Y'all have a good week.
Take care.
Take care, y'all.